Hi, Ryan. Welcome to the podcast. Thanks so much for being here today.
Hello, my pleasure. My pleasure. Happy to be here.
Well, I love talking to all my guests, but I will say I always love to just nerd out on all things keto. So I'm extra excited to chat today. And I always ask every guest the same question to get started, which is the very broad question of how do you keep yourself well?
Ooh, that is a big one. I mean, my like wellness journey has gone from, like just it's it's a long journey. So it's gone from just like, stop doing drugs and being a piece of shit to like very specific things with my diet, my sleep cycle, my workout routine. So like wellness is just like it's a ever, constantly evolving thing for me. And I've kind of gotten in the weeds, like especially the last year or two, but I don't regret it for a second. I'm 33 now, about to be 34. I've never felt like, I felt like a 50-year-old when I was 25. So like, my journey's been awesome and I've never felt better. And yeah, wellness is like health, wellness, super important to me. It's what I like to talk about, post about, besides, all the good food content.
I think that's such a great point, though, that it does exist on a spectrum, and you can start with the small steps and go from there, the evolution of it all. Okay, what do you mean when you've gotten in the weeds?
Like just like I did start like a strict ketogenic diet for a while. Now I do incorporate carbs in my diet. So, but I'm like super, super specific when it comes to sourcing my carbs. Like anything on my tasting menu or anything that I eat, it's all non-GMO flour imported from Italy. You know what I mean? It's like, your organic, raw, not bleached sugar. And then like physical things. Like I lift weights every day, but I'm also in yoga a few times a week. I am very controversial about sunscreen and I make sure every part of my body gets sun, if you know what I'm saying. But yeah, just like that. And then my sleep cycle, just going with the circadian rhythm, trying not to stay up late anymore. I'm up at the crack of dawn with the chickens. They're waiting for their table scraps that I accumulate every day. And yeah, so it's just lots of little things.
Yeah, adding the layers to it. Well, and I think for someone who's just coming to keto or just coming to some of these self-care, if you want to call them like biohacking approaches, it can look super overwhelming, you know? So,
Right. And that's why when I'm like giving advice to people just starting off, I'm like, dude, you do not need to do some of the shit that I'm doing. Like that's for like a couple of years from now. You know what I mean? You got to start small with like, your daily habits, getting your steps in, protein dominant diets. Like even like like keto, like a lot, like I used a lot of keto products when I was first starting out. I don't really consume too many anymore just because I'm like, all like whole foods and stuff like that. But I'm not going to tell other people not to use these things that helped me when I first started. You know what I mean? So it's like an evolution and progress. And like when I give advice to people, I don't tell them to start waking up at 5:30 a.m. and sunning their balls on the back porch. You know what I mean? We'll start we'll start with like
don't scare
small
them. Yeah.
stuff. Yeah. I don't want to scare anybody off. And like another thing, even with fitness, like I work out 7 days a week. Like if somebody asked for me for advice on starting to work out, I would say start with 3. I would never tell someone not to take rest days. Like that's just something I do personally, and that might even be at a slight detriment. But it's a lot of mental health factors in there with just me and my background and where I'm at right now. So I wouldn't exactly like, preach and give advice for exactly what I do, and especially to someone just starting off.
Yeah. That's a great point. Do you follow the carnivore Aurelius Instagram?
I do follow her. She blocked me on Twitter, which I'm not happy about. Like a couple months ago, someone tagged me on a post of hers, and I say her, just confirming I guess somebody did a deep
I
dive and found out who she was. But
I was just gonna say
I
you're
love.
confirming this controversy because I didn't get down. I saw it went to Reddit and I'm like, I can't open that floodgate. I don't need to know.
Well, say what you want about the Reddit warriors, but they've been right more often than they've been wrong. And this one, it seemed to have weight to it. But either way, I mean, the account in general, I love the account. I love the progression of the account, just going from like anti-fruit, like like very strict carnivore, and then saying like, hey, I've been like looking deeper into this. I found new things, and like this is where I'm at right now. And like that's everybody. Like that's like the biggest thing, like from politics to health to wellness, is not marrying your beliefs but challenging them often. Like like I challenge my own beliefs every single day. Like anything I do, I look at the other side. I look at all the evidence involved, and just you have to have a little bit of a gut feeling with most things, especially these days. But yeah, not marrying your beliefs. That's why I really respect the account for that. It's just being able to evolve over time.
Yeah, well, you don't have to stick to a dogma. And I think it's so dangerous in wellness as well, because there are certain things that potentially may no longer serve you in your journey. And if you've been glued to them, purely because you've posted on social media, I mean, we don't need to talk about vegans, but vegans are, as an example, there's many very Instagram or TikTok famous or popular vegans, however you want to say it, who that's their MO, start feeling unwell if they were so glued to that and unwilling to change, like totally sacrifice. Well, and some do, I think, sacrifice their health. But I was just going to say on the Carnivore Aurelius page, there was a funny post the other day, and it was like the stages that women are going through right now. And it's like green juice and cleanses, like number one. And then it's like, sourcing your own food and like moving to a farm and raising chickens. And I feel like there's a male version that you've progressed through as well.
Yeah, I was just looking at that yesterday. I was actually looking at that whole post yesterday. So it's funny that you brought it up. And yeah, it's great. I mean, I get in trouble in my friend circles or group chats. The girls don't like it when I kind of open my mouth too much and just maybe don't talk too good about birth control and things like that. But
Hmm.
you know, it is what it is. I mean,
I think it's just rare that many women would think a man knows much about birth control. So it's refreshing
yeah.
that you
Well, unfortunately, I seem to know a lot more about it than all of them. But I mean, they probably wouldn't like me saying that. But yeah, I'm of course, men are going to be interested in like men's health and women's health, like more so. But I'm just interested also in just people in general and like all around, like from motherhood to fatherhood, family, like women's health, men's health. It's just it's something I'm a little plugged into on all aspects.
yeah, people's health. So how, because I know this has been, well, you tell me, how would you have answered this question, how you keep yourself well 5 years ago, 10 years ago? Because when do you feel like this journey started for you? Like you said, moving from starting at square one of recovery even.
Yeah, so I mean, my journey was multifaceted. From like, I had some bad influences when I was like very young, freshman in high school. I mean, doing like extremely hardcore drugs, like the hardest you could think of, like heroin, crack, like 13, 14 years old. Like when I was 18, that's when I like officially was like an addict. And my primary drug of choice was opiates, but I didn't discriminate. Um, I was a zombie for 10 years from 18 to 28. So, I mean, if you asked me in that time, like there's like, I was thinking about it the other day, there's like multiple years where I didn't drink water. Like I literally did not have a sip of water for like years at a time. Like my diet was 25% candy, like fast food was like all everything I ate. I had like Gatorade and stuff, but like actual water, like no. Um, so yeah, 28. There wasn't like a huge like event that happened where I was like, oh, now I'm getting sober. I just like always had this image of myself, like even at my worst, like when I was like a total piece of shit, like just sleeping, just totaling cars left and right, um, sleeping as I'm like walking around throughout the day like a zombie. But I always had this image of myself in the back of my head that was like, like pretty much exactly where I'm at right now. I never let go of that. And then, I was just getting to the end of that 10-year run. I was just burning bridges, losing jobs, just getting sick and tired of being sick and tired. And just one day just said enough was enough. I didn't go in the traditional like AA rehab route. I kind of did like a self-imposed rehab. Um, I like got Suboxone from my dealer. That's what they give to people in rehab. So I kind of just like did my own at home version. But that sometimes is like a crutch for people in those situations. They stay on that for like years at a time and then never want to give that up. So I would put myself, once I made the choice, like I made a very strict regimen for myself. And then I used a lot of THC stuff to it's basically like repairing neurological pathways in your brain. There's actually some really good science to that, especially for opiate addicts. And yeah, and then I just took it one step at a time. Started working again. I was like a laborer pushing wheelbarrows with like a college education and just like starting from ground zero. So just got into that, and then eventually a year or two after I got sober, maybe a year and a half, I wanted to lose some weight. And so I was like, all right, let me try the keto diet. And then when I was sober, I was also like really enjoying food for the first time in years. So I was like, oh, now I'm loving food, but now I want to start keto. But if I cook the food myself, then I can do keto and still eat really good food. So that's how I started cooking. And then like, it all just kind of like branched out, then got into fitness, and then it just kept growing. It's a ever evolving progression with me.
Snowball. That's incredible.
Yeah.
So when did you go to college? Because you were then struggling with addiction, obviously, throughout college. And what was your degree?
My degree was business management. Um, I'm an extremely good test taker, like really good. Like I can like not even take a class and like look at those college exams and be like, okay, here's what you want me to trick to pick. Here's definitely not right. And like, you know what I mean? You can kind of just
Work the system.
like, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm a really, really good test taker. And I was like really good in school. So um and then I was still sociable. So I had a lot of allies in class that would help me and then I did do a lot of I wasn't like some drug dealing kingpin, but I was definitely entrepreneurial in my addict nature. So using that to my advantage, like in the school system, to just like pass classes. It was not the best thing, looking back, but it is what it is. Like that's how I got through college.
No, but I appreciate the honesty. So, did you ever consider going that route professionally once you got sober?
Um, no, I mean, business management degrees, like it's not like it was a total waste because after that, and I got sober, then I got back into the construction industry, and I had like a really good career growing in construction the last few years. But those positions, you need to either have a degree or you need to like work in the trade for 40 years. So my degree definitely wasn't worthless in what I was doing before my new endeavor, which I'm sure we'll get into. But yeah, so I was you know, like the last like 3 years, I was a superintendent for a general contractor. I would be on like, you know, multi-million-dollar jobs with like, you know, 100 guys on site. And yeah, the business management degree definitely helped me. I was like, you know, I was an addict at the time in college, but I like still had perfect attendance for all my classes. I still like engaged with the teachers and stuff. Like I actually didn't mind like school and class like throughout growing up. So there's definitely things I learned from that degree that you know, just helped me managing people, interacting. But yeah, that's as of last November, I officially retired from construction and have moved on.
Congratulations. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so moved on because I found you obviously through your cooking and keto Instagram. So when on this journey did you start that? Because you've then 180'd your life in 6 years, like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
now are fully self-sustained, self-employed, healthier than ever, have probably extended your life by a solid 60 years.
Yeah.
So
At least.
when did you start the Instagram and what were your goals? You just wanted to share what you were cooking and it eventually took off?
Yeah, so I have like a little personal Instagram, like just I was never big on social media. So I started a little personal Instagram, I think once I got sober. Um and then I was like, you know, doing the cooking and I was just like posting some of my stuff to my stories and like maybe like a post here and there. And like one of my buddies in particular, um he had a vodka company. He was just starting out and he was doing some social media content. He's like, dude, you got to start posting your stuff, like make a separate page for that and like just start posting. So it took me a little bit of a convincing, but then, you know, once I did it and then I just kept doing it and kept doing it. And it's cool. It's like, you know, social media algorithms, like they're like, don't get me wrong, like there's like certain people in this country, especially like young females and youth and kids, that it's absolutely destroying. But if you like if you learn to control your feed and if you learn to manage like what these apps are feeding you and what they're giving you, like it can be like the biggest asset to you. So when I started posting on there and then I started interacting with other accounts and, you know, getting ideas, just like kind of spitballing things between each other, and then that's what led me into the rest of my health and wellness space. So, you know, really like social media can be horrible and there's definitely some issues that we have to address with it. But it can also be like literally your greatest asset.
Yeah, I agree. If you curate it properly, right?
Yeah.
And so when you were transitioning to keto and learning about keto, did you utilize a coach? What resources were you using to navigate that change?
So my dad did like dabble in some like old school Atkins and some keto before. So I had like the basic idea and then I just started diving in myself. And when you're doing all the cooking yourself, you know, you really get a feel for like ingredients and like and then so I mean I was like self-coached, I guess, but I definitely had a little bit of a learning curve with that. You know, like there's like some like sugar-free caramel I was using back in the day for like months, and then I finally looked at the ingredient label and I was like 17 grams of carbs, what the hell? I like threw it in the garbage, like didn't realize it, you know what I mean? So it was definitely a learning curve when I started, and when I started it was like I don't want to say like dirty keto, but it just I was only concerned about macros. You know what I mean? I didn't care about like whole foods, like how it was grown, pesticides, like where it came from. All that I wanted to see was like that carbohydrate number. And you know, that's how I started and it worked great. I was like 225 pounds, like so I was like 50 pounds overweight and I dropped like 50, 55 pounds in like 6 months on keto.
Wow. I
Yeah.
mean, similar though to everything else that you're talking about in terms of lifestyle, even within keto, there's the spectrum of progression, like
Yeah.
using some of those foods just to help you transition and then slowly taking the steps to, raising your own chickens.
My own chickens, my own garden, my little herb thing out here.
You've
Yeah.
got it all. Okay, yeah, tell me.
Yeah.
So you're sitting in the new build outdoor kitchen at your house.
Yes, yes. This is I'm up at the bar right here. Me and my dad built this thing from scratch. It's been a dream to be able to do a project like that with him. Was awesome. It took forever, but I finally got it set, and I got this little seating area right behind me that you see. So I got all my bistro tables set up,
Amazing.
and yeah, I've been hosting my food club. Legally speaking, not a restaurant, a food club.
Tasting menu at the
Yeah, my
food club.
tasting yeah tasting menu for the steak and the egg, and it's basically like kind of like a concept run for the restaurant that I want to open. So I got the chickens, I got a big garden, the outdoor kitchen, like the beautiful scenery, and that's just like what I want to do. I want to get a little farm and go straight farm to table, and I've been working with some really great local companies that I absolutely love, and yeah, it's been surreal. I'm like this is week 4 coming up, so it's been so much work, but it's been like the most rewarding thing I've ever done. It's amazing. The feedback's been incredible.
Congratulations. It is so cool. And I look forward. So how many day well, I look forward to seeing what you're posting, but I look forward to one day going there. And now, because you're on the podcast, I think I could consider a trip to New Jersey a business expense.
There you go.
Works.
And I'm in a good spot. I'm an hour from New York City, an hour from Philly, 25 minutes from the Jersey Shore. Great Adventures, Six Flags Great Adventures, 10 minutes away. So it's like a cool spot, and that's like kind of where I'm trying to stay, where I'm not like on the restaurant strip, but I'm reasonable distance, and it's like a destination spot. It's like a whole experience. You want to come a little early and take a tour of the garden, or see some of the chickens whose eggs you're about to eat. Milking cow. We'll definitely have a milking cow when I get the farm. So yeah, I want it to be like a whole little like destination thing, and that's what I've been doing here. So it's been great.
I love that. I wish there was anything like that around. Well, there are things ish around you, but not to that extent. So how long from idea to conception did this take?
So this was like it started like overwhelming my thoughts last summer, and then that's when MasterChef contacted me. So probably last November, right before the new year, I quit my construction job. Um, Technically fired, but it was like a weird thing where I was like, it was like a scapegoat. But by the way, here are these like job offers at the same time. So I just like quit the industry, and I just really started. I started building the outdoor kitchen in November. Actually, I poured like the concrete pad just to like get going, knowing that I was going to film Master Chef. So then the new year, I just spent 2 months just getting ready for Master Chef, just like learning how to make pasta, bake cakes, like all things I wasn't comfortable with. And then went out and filmed Master Chef at the start of the year, and then got back here, and then just went full bore on building this kitchen.
That's awesome.
And
Help with your
yeah.
dad, which is so sweet to do it together.
Oh, what, on the show?
No, like your dad helped you build the kitchen.
Oh yeah, yeah, he's awesome. He's worked in construction. He was like a carpenter by trade, and he's been a super for years and years. He works in New York City, and yeah, do a project like this with him is just it was amazing, man. It's hard to describe. It's something that I'll like forever be grateful for. And like when me and him were first like pitching it to each other, and I'm like, I'm kind of getting in his head a little bit, like, what do we do this? What do we do that? And my mom would come out and she'd be like, You could tell she was like, oh, I don't know, do what you guys want to do. But once we finished, and you just see how like at family parties or during my tastings or having friends over, like everybody just gravitates to these bars, and like there's food being cooked a couple feet away, and I have a Blackstone out here that she uses in the morning to cook breakfast. Now she absolutely loves it. So it's just it's been awesome.
They must be so proud. I mean, I can't imagine as parents the experience to see how far you've come.
Yeah, yeah, no, they are, and they're loving it, and especially like the last few weeks, like I'm hosting the tastings, and they're like here interacting with the guests. My dad's like my little DJ, and my dad like helped me build this kitchen, and my mom, me and her like do a huge garden together. So it's really like it's so much more than just like, hey, come to my house and I'll cook for you. You know what I mean? It's like a family affair, and like it's like things that we've all built together, and they're part of the scenery, and it's just it's beautiful, man. When people come, they just like they can't believe it. Like it's wild. It's hard to describe.
That's incredible. So tell us about the tasting menu. How many days a week are you having guests?
Well, I do. This is a house with regular working adults here, so I do Friday and Saturday night, not to impose too much, and that works out too because it's not like I'm doing like one day of prep and I'm getting ready. Like this is like a concept run for like a straight like farm to table restaurant. So like every day of the week I'm doing something getting ready for the tasting. Like the fire that I have, I chop the wood for. Like the water you're drinking, I drive to a spring and fill up fresh spring water. Like, so the little salads you're eating, like those are microgreens that I just spend, that I plant every week and I grow, and they're fresh and they're cut right before they're put on your plate. Um, I have to tend the garden. I got the chickens every day. It's I got these cute little ice cubes that I spend 20 minutes a day making. So, it's like it's a very, very like attention to detail, and it's like all these little things. So like right now with where I'm at, like doing it by myself, like 2 days a week is plenty as far as how many hours I'm putting into getting this thing ready for people.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for that level of detail and quality, like it's so experiential. So how do people get a seat at the table?
They just slide in the DMs for the most part. A lot of friends, a lot of people that I know from the area, but I've had some awesome people reach out through social media that I've had out here, and like this is the first time I'm meeting them, and I invite them into my backyard, and they have like an amazing food experience, an amazing night, and it's been great. And some of the greatest feedback I've gotten is like, a lot of like health conscious people have been here, and they're like, dude, like I just ate 3 desserts, so much food, and I'm not bloated at all. Like what's going, I'm like, that's because I use absolutely zero seed oils. That fryer up there has like $60 worth of avocado oil sitting in it. I don't use GMO flour. I'm not using like heavily pesticided vegetables. Like these are tomatoes that I just grew. They're heirloom tomatoes that I've been growing here for the last few months. I have an awesome butcher where I'm like sourcing the meat from. So there's a lot, like every single like ingredient that I'm using is like, there's attention to detail too. So it's awesome just to hear somebody, and I had one girl here like 2 weeks ago, a friend from when I was growing up. She drops a bomb on me like halfway through the night. She said, "This is the first time I'm eating meat in 12 years." I got a little emotional. I was like, "Oh my God, that's awesome."
Wow. And so any hiccups so far in the first
Um,
weeks?
I was I've had a couple of hiccups. I mean, I've gotten like in even the first 3 weeks, like it's like night and day how smooth I've gotten with the whole thing because it's 7+ courses. So if I have 10, 12 people, like we're looking at like, 100, you know what I mean, plates of food, like more than that. Like it's a lot of plates of food. Like, some of them are smaller than others, but they're all delicious. I've had some hiccups with the weather because I haven't wanted to cancel anything, so I've had to work around a little bit of a rain situation. But luckily for the block two that I'm launching right now, which will go through September, I have a nice tarp that we'll be throwing on top of this whole pergola. So there might be some rainy nights here, but we won't be affected.
Perfect. Adapt. So do you have a timeline in mind for when you want this to be full scale with the farm? I mean, not to get ahead of myself since you're only on week 4 of this, but
Yeah. So this is like my concept run right now, and I'm putting everything I got into it. But it's also going to be used as like my elevator pitch. So I'm looking to also like have some investors out here, and some like-minded people. And I've been thinking about possibly doing like a kind of like a crowd fund kind of thing deal with it too. So I'm kind of playing it by ear as far as the future. I know it's going to happen. I don't know, I don't have it in stone exactly how we're going to work towards that right now. But, for the next, through September, for the next month, and then as long as the weather permits, we're just going to be going as strong as we can here, and just making sure that everything's absolutely perfect.
amazing. And so tell me about the MasterChef experience because you said they reached out to you, which is I know nothing about the reality TV world. So that's an exciting thing to have gotten their attention. So walk us through that experience.
Yeah, so they reached out to me last summer, and I was kind of going back and forth with them, and I wasn't sure if I was gonna do it, and it was just like, but then, my job thing happened. I just like hit a button and just fully committed last November. I told them I'm in, started making plans. They gave me my flight stuff, and then I had like a month or two to like. I was aware of the show. I watched it before. I wasn't like the most avid fan, like extremely familiar. So I just started doing as much homework and research as I could. I caught up on a few seasons. And then I realized that, I'm not going out there to be on TV. I'm going out there to win. So there's like some skills that I'm lacking. And that's when I started like teaching myself how to make homemade pasta, teaching myself to bake, getting comfortable with desserts. And that really like opened me up to like ingredients, like using non-GMO flour, like raw organic sugar, like those kind of things. Because I'm like, all right, if I'm gonna be making this stuff, I'm gonna be eating some of it too. So just caused me to dive even deeper into food and ingredients. But I spent a couple months getting ready, and I was feeling great. I guess I went out there, and it was good. It was a cool experience. I was studying a lot still when I was out there. So even though you're not really allowed to cook when you're out there, um, I was still learning a lot more. I met some amazing people, like some friends for life. You have people from all around the country, like kind of in this hotel, and like you got COVID rules, so you can't. I didn't touch grass for a month. Like it's yeah, it's a strict regiment they got there. But they invest a lot in the show, and they don't want anything to happen to the cast during the show, so I understand it. And then on the show, it was great. I mean, my apron episode was absolutely fantastic. I had a huge emotional moment with my dad that was just like the accumulation of like those 10 years of hardship that we moved past, but we never really acknowledged and talked about. So then that moment on the show was really like a big like opening up for us, and I wouldn't trade that moment for the world. And I got to cook steak and eggs for, one of the best chefs in the world, Gordon Ramsay, and got an apron from it. So I am the best steak and eggs cook there ever was, but that's for another conversation.
I believe
But
it.
yeah, the show is great. Being out there, I'm very upset. Or I was. I mean, I still kind of am. That I got cut so short just because I don't know if you saw it or if any of the viewers saw it, but the episode that I got sent home in was extremely controversial. There was a lot of shenanigans going on. Did you see it?
No, but I want to deep dive the whole season now.
Should I tell you? Should I give you a spoiler?
Yes, please do.
All right. So we were like two team members down. It was like third episode in. We're like two team members down. Yeah, they flip a coin. The other team gets the New York strip. We get stuck with the pork chop. So I'm on an Argentinian grill. It's like an open fire grill in like 30-mile-per-hour winds. It's like impossible to slow cook something with that condition. And the challenge starts. I open up the fridge, and it's not just a pork chop. These are 4-inch thick, double bone, almost frozen pork chops. It's like, dude, I know how to cook pork chops. You temper them. Like, you know what I mean? You don't put something like ice cold, like right on a hot grill in the wind. But I did my best, and I had some other issues throughout the episode that you'll have to see some calls made by our team captain and some other teammates, and then Gordon got a little frisky at one point. So me and him had to butt heads a little bit, and they ended up sending me home, which sucks. I was really pissed because I always wanted to be like, oh, who's the best pasta maker ever on the show? A guy with a keto cooking account? Like, what the hell? But because I'll put my pasta up against any of them. I will. It's really good. I do some really cool like raviolis and different pastas and sauces. And I was pissed that I never got a chance to make fresh pasta on the show. That was like my biggest upset.
You'll have another chance. Would you do another show if you're invited, whether this show or just a different Food Network style show?
Yeah, I'm not like completely opposed. It would definitely depend. But like right now, no. Like, like this second, like no. The most important thing to me is like this next month of tastings. Like, you'd have to buy my ass a farm to convince me not to do this for the next month.
That's amazing. Does it feel very real and like you're in it in the filming process, or does it feel very staged?
um any kind of TV and production, like if you've never been there or seen it, you're shocked at by how like staged it is. But it's like, when you watch these episodes on TV and you look back, you're like, oh, they have to do that to like get these shots and make these things. But the one thing I will say about MasterChef is, like, say what you want about the little things like intros, extras, I don't know if that's the word, interviews and stuff like that. You have to be able to cook. Like, the proof is in the pudding. Like, like the cooking part, like you actually have a timer and you're actually like cooking this food, and for the most part, the food speaks for itself. So it's I will say that about MasterChef is that the cooking aspect of it is very real.
That's so cool. I can't imagine how challenging being out of your normal routine was for you. Like, no, there's no grounding, no
Yeah.
normal structure in that. So I think just to be in that setting and still be so successful as well is
Yeah, like that's very important to me. It's a small thing, and it's like one of those little health things. But like, and I'm not gonna tell somebody like just getting into health and wellness that like it's so important you have to touch grass every day. But I'm just saying, in my personal like journey, and that's something I found very rewarding, is like every day I am barefoot in that garden watering those plants, and it's like there's they could actually measure like your electromagnetic field when you do these things, and like it's very beneficial as far as health. I think it's an underrated aspect. And yeah, it definitely hurt me to be in that hotel for a month like that. And then there was other things too, like, you know, you have no cook. Like I cook every day, like literally every day, even when I was working. So for me to like not be able to cook my own meals and have, I had to like download all these like Uber Eats and shit. Like I don't use these things. So I had to like adjust to that. Luckily, raw milk is legal in California. So I would just be stocking up on gallons of raw milk, and that was a lot of my diet for that time.
Is it legal in Jersey?
No, no, it's not. I actually go like once every few weeks, and there's this awesome farm, the Family Cow in PA. They're Mennonites. It's like Amish, but they use some technology. They have like pickups on the border of PA and Jersey. So you put your order in, and then I literally go to Trenton, New Jersey. I cross the bridge into PA, and I pick up my order, and then I come back. And that's like, if I was a one issue voter, that would be my issue, like raw milk. Like that's, if I ever get into politics, like that's my political campaign right there. We're bringing back the raw
There.
dairy.
Yeah, in
Yeah,
Canada it's illegal. And
yeah, it's horrible.
I don't know if you've heard, you probably saw this on some of the carnivore pages, like in one of our provinces, British Columbia, they recently legalized small quantities of cocaine and heroin, but raw dairy is still illegal.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I for as an act, I'm very libertarian in nature. So like you know, when it comes to the war on drugs and that stuff, I have controversial views, especially for like an ex-user, an addict. You wouldn't expect me to think some of the things I do, but that just shows like the absolute hypocrisy that something like these like hardcore like substances that can literally ruin your life are legal. And when it comes to dairy, they want to make it mandatory to pasteurize this stuff, which is heating it up to ridiculous temperatures, killing all the healthy bacteria in it, completely changes the substance. That's why that the pasteurization of dairy is why you have so many people with like these you know, milk, cheese, what it lactose
Lactose.
intolerance. Yeah, yeah, like that's it right there. Like it's so obvious, and it's a shame. It's the bureaucracy is strong in in Canada and the U.S.
I feel like a shift is coming. Maybe not politically, but people like you, it was hilarious because I was literally on that carnivore Aurelius post. I was like, here I am on the spectrum of like making my own tallow lotion and like getting into all the real funky stuff now. But I think, having these conversations, it's becoming more and more popular of, people are wanting those options. So it's like, okay, fine, I'll do it myself. Like if you're not gonna
Yep.
make the food and everything, like, so okay, that said, tell me more about when and why you started incorporating carb ups. Do you do it for a metabolic benefit or just because you love food? And then I want you to talk a little bit about the processing of the wheat, because this is something I talk about with clients all the time. When I travel to Europe, if I was to eat bread, pasta, whatever, feel fine. I know why, but I would like you to talk about your experience with making pasta and using the specific flours.
Yep. So carb ups. Like 2 summers ago, I started. I'm you know when COVID hit, I was up in Boston working in construction, and I came home to Jersey to my family house, and it was supposed to be like 2 weeks. So I was like, oh, you know, let's just start working out every day for 2 weeks, and we'll be jacked going back to Boston. And then, you know, 2 weeks turned into 2 months, turned into 2 years, and now here we are, like how many years later? But so yeah, I started working out, and when you know, I was an addict, but I'm still like an addict. I just channel my addictions differently. So when I started working out, it wasn't just like, all right, work out a couple days a week. It was like, no, you're all in. Like, you know, you're all in. So I really believe that when you're doing that level of physical activity, and we're talking like professional level, I think it's like plus 14 hours a week or something like that. So I'm working out for an hour and a half a day lifting weights. I'm going to hot yoga 3 to 4 hours a week. I'm extremely active throughout the day. So that's like 15 to 20,000 steps. And when you have that level of physical activity, I really believe that incorporating healthy carbs, not so much using them for energy. It's not like I'm carbing up before I work out, but using them like moderately after you work out, because that helps you rebuild muscle, and it just like puts less stress on your body, and it made recovery a lot easier for me. So I still have a lot of days, I mean majority of my days, where I'm like carnivore, keto, like zero carb, low carb. When I carb up and I like put a post out that I'm like, you know, incorporating carbs, and I will post carb content on my keto page, kind of triggers some people, but I put my disclaimer, I'm carb loading. Um, but when I do that, I mean, it's not like I'm eating like 200 grams of carbs. Like I'm going from like 0-20 to like 50-60, you know, and like and then we'll go into like the pasta stuff. So like when I started making pasta, that's why I looked into it, because I always heard about the thing like when you go to Italy, you know, you don't, you know, you have like different reactions to the amount of like carbs, and they eat healthy oils too. Like olive oil is big. They have a seed oil problem as well, but so that's why I started looking into it, and then I looked into like this whole like heritage grain and GMO thing, and luckily I have an Italian market that I get a lot of my food from, and they have imported Italian heritage grain flour there. So when I started making pasta, it's like 10 times more expensive than, you know, this bleached bullshit flour we sell here. But when I started making pasta, I used that, and then not only is that like a healthy carb, because it's just what it is, and you know the whole GMO aspect of it, but it's also like I use a cup of flour and I make this amount of pasta, and I'm like, oh my god, I could eat like 1/8 of that and make like this little bougie ass Michelin star dish. So I'll like eat pasta when I'm not even loading carbs, and I'll be at like 30 grams of carbs for the day, and I'll, you know, it's not a big bowl of pasta. It's like 7 little cute raviolis with like, you know, stuffed with brisket and ricotta cheese. You know what I mean? So it's like the amount of carbs, like when I'm carb loading, like I think rarely, never will like go over like 100 grams for the day, like even on like a party day or a, you know, just day where I'm just like crushing some desserts at a family event or something like that. But even in my daily practice, when I'm low carb or almost carnivore for the day, I will like have like a tablespoon of honey with my like post workout meal, or have some fruit here or there, just because, you know, you can have small amounts of carbs and still stay in ketosis. And that kind of goes back to like I used to use a lot of like keto products, and now I use less, not as much, if any. But even those keto products like have like 8 grams of carbs per serving, 10, 12. Like you're eating carbs with those products. So like people get a little triggered when they see me putting a little hot honey on my steak, but I'm like, dude, I just ate less carbs than you did in those keto cookies. You know what I mean? So it's not about, it is about the number of carbs, but it's also about like where these carbs are coming from. And like I take the sourcing of my carbohydrates, I take even more serious than the sourcing of like my meat products.
And it's carbs that you can digest. A lot of the marketed products, they're sugar alcohols, fibers that we respond horribly to. You end up bloated. Feel the caramel sauce that you were talking about earlier. I thought you were going to
Yep.
say you're having stomach issues from it, because like wouldn't have been surprised. The mismarketing of it. And I think too, that's where keto can be done so many different ways. Whole foods, obviously, we know are going to be best. And I think your level of activity and output too, you've got such a buffer. Like I eat differently in keto than a client who works a sedentary job, isn't training like I'm training Brazilian jiu-jitsu, like, you know, high level of output in terms of also what I'm burning metabolically. So it's a little bit different. And then I need you to talk a little bit about tallow and sunscreen, and then I will start wrapping. I could talk to you all day. Okay, because
Uh,
I don't think it's controversial. And I was just planning just having a conversation with my parents because I sent them home with homemade tallow lotion. And I'm like, don't
nice.
worry, I'm not like losing my mind, but I think you should try this lotion. Also, I'm not using sunscreen anymore. So uh tell me about it because I think that's going to be new for a lot of people listening right now.
Yes. Let me just say, I want to compliment you on your jujitsu. I have checked out your page. Very impressive.
Thank you.
That's my next endeavor, but I'm being careful on when I start, just because, like I said, I know myself. I'm an addict, so
Yeah.
it's going to be multiple days a week, completely obsessed, working through injuries. I can see it now, but that is my next step.
Thank
Yeah. So
highly encourage it. And also, I wanted you to say too, I relate so much to when you said the like addictive personality thing. I think like there has been some addiction in my family. I've always been so aware of it. I actively always chose healthy addictions from
yes.
sports when I was a kid, bodybuilding, jujitsu, running, like it's always all in on something. So for you to know too, like when to put press pulse on certain things. I totally get that.
That's my future book, Channeling Addiction, because I really do feel like addictive natures in humans, like all throughout our evolution, like throughout human history, it was a benefit. Like the people who have these things, and the guy who was addicted to hunting, his tribe had a lot better output than the guy who was just like, yeah, I'll go hunt. Like we need another boar, okay, you know what I mean? So like that, like these addictive things, like. But then in the modern society, it's like with big pharma, like these drugs that they've made, like all these food scientists, like that same addictive tendency and like your evolutionarily developed like craving systems have been, gone from a benefit to humans to a net negative, so like where now it could be your greatest weakness.
Yeah.
But channeling addiction coming soon.
Are you writing something already?
Oh, I've just been putting like the ideas together. I'm a horrible writer, so I think I need to bring somebody on. I just like, I don't consume content like reading books. I much prefer like podcasts, documentaries, like reading some papers, but reading and writing is not my best forte.
That's
But
exciting. Okay.
we went off track though.
Well,
So
I look forward to that book. Okay, tell me about why we're not wearing sunscreen and tallow
yeah.
and seed oils, I guess.
Well, no, they're all connected. Like
Yeah.
I say this every time. It's like one of my mottos. Everything is connected. Like literally everything. Everything you do, see, consume, feel, everything's connected. Um, so I'm a pasty Irish boy, usually a lot pastier than this, but I was tanner than this last summer. But so I went my whole life like if I was out in the sun for like 20 minutes, I would have sunburn, like with no sunscreen. Like I went on my whole life, like hearing from everybody and their mother and their doctor and their aunt and their uncle, like how important sunscreen was. And then, when shortly after getting into keto and looking into food stuff, I fell down the seed oil rabbit hole. So I completely cut them from my diet. And just there's so much evidence about the negative effects of sunscreen out there. So that was part of it. And then here I am, like a person that suffered from like severe sunburn my whole life, like literally so many times where I like couldn't even move. I was like crippled by sunburn. And here I am a few years later, like seed oil free, clean diet in the Costa Rican sun for days on days. The probably one of the palest out of 20 people, the only one with no sunscreen, like one of the only ones with no sunburn. Like it's the change has been night and day. And it wasn't just like I just went down and did that. I started the sun exposure. You start low and kind of work your way up. And especially for someone like really fair skin like myself, like it's super important to like build that base and work your way up. And like sunscreen in general, it's just it's extremely unscientific. It's the chemicals that they put in this thing, what it does to the ocean water when you got hundreds of people like crowded on a beach and like the natural habitat. it stops your absorption. Vitamin D is much more than just a vitamin. It's like a necessary hormone in our body that we need. And it's you can see that in the last couple of years with like the whole COVID thing. And yeah, so cleaning my diet up, and then the sun exposure has been like, forever changing for me. It's something I swear by. Like humans did not like drop from skin cancer like they have like throughout our history, like you've seen in the past, like 50 years, more than that, 70 maybe. um but it's a shame just like how bad the information is out there about sun exposure, and how closely it's related to your diet, and just like the fact that it's like the industry has been so like compromised and indoctrinated, and like all these professionals that speak on this are told a certain thing when they're going to get their medical degree, and since they're told it from someone else in authority, they believe it with every ounce of their body. They actually believe this, and they have the medical license to prove it. But the more and more that I've looked around, like especially the last few years through COVID, like we have a very, very small amount of like actual doctors, and most of these people with MD by their name, they're pharmaceutical sales reps. And they're the way that big pharma is totally entangled with the food industry, with any sunscreen industry. Like, look who's making these products. You know what I mean? It's the same. They're all connected as well, and they are financially motivated. And it's just a shame. Like, you have somebody on a shit diet with seed oils. You're making money from these cheap industrial lubricants, and then you have that same person buying your sunscreen, and then you have that same person buying your pharmaceuticals because all the health benefit or health problems they have from those seed oils and from that sunscreen. You know what I mean? So they have like a compounding effect of where this financial motivation like has just completely overtaken every aspect of our life. And I think it was Rich Horton, editor of the Lancet. He said, this is the editor of the Lancet, and he said, at least, I think he said, at least or up to 50% of all scientific research is just not true. And it's from bad sample sizes, poor studies, and financial motivation. And it's just a shame, like, how many people will swear by this, and they've been told it their whole lives. And little do they know, like, the answer is it's much simpler than they want you to think.
Yeah. Well, and I think conversations like this are like, okay, open the door for one person to explore some of these things. Because again, I think it can get really overwhelming too when you start questioning those authorities and the white coat of like, well, if I really can't trust them, then who can I trust? And like, it's also very easy to sound like a conspiracy theorist, which is why I try to just like dabble in talking about it slowly
Yeah.
to not like spook people. But I say, like, there's a reason I'm not a registered dietitian. There's a reason I am doing public health instead of medicine, because like the policy is so broken. I'm like, it all system needs fixed. So do you see yourself, well, now I know you've got this amazing spot at home, but do you see yourself staying in New Jersey? Because I feel like a lot of your lifestyle sounds like you might want more summer and some of like seasonality. I don't know. Maybe I'm projecting that onto you because I want more summer. But do you think that you'll stay there? Do you ever see yourself relocating?
Yeah, so I see myself expanding. So like without some like great intervention from like a huge angel investor, the first stake in the egg, my establishment will start in New Jersey. And but I don't see it um in the big picture, long run. I don't see that being the stake in the egg. So there's definitely like some other areas where, like, it's kind of a pipe dream now, but I would like to explore down the road. I'd like to get one, start getting one in each of the 4 regions to start, and then just kind of grow from there. But I'll always, whether or not I always am here full time, I'll always have a base here. This place is it's extremely important to me. It's where I grew up. I just love, being an hour from New York City, an hour from Philly. Say what you want about the cities, but then being in like a backyard like this, like with my own chickens, it's just something that I love. And, beyond the proof of concept of my tasting menu, my food, my restaurant, is this, when I talk about this farm to table, it's going to be farm to table, yes, but it's also going to be like a regenerative homesteading kind of thing. And more than just the proof of concept for the restaurant is the proof of concept for that, in that if I can do this in the most highly densely populated state in the country, then that means that you can do this anywhere. So, New Jersey's like always going to have a special place in my heart, and it's definitely where I'm starting off. I'm not limited to the state boundaries for sure. You can see me going to PA to pick up my raw milk, but definitely going to expand from here. But the steak and the egg will always have a home in New Jersey.
I'm so excited for you. Okay, well, I'll make sure that I come there at some point to experience the very first, the steak and the egg, before you start taking over the world. Okay, I want to be mindful of your time because really these are all my favorite things and I'll talk about them all day. So I do have quick 5 like rapid fire questions for you to wrap up. Who is your biggest role model?
Ooh, biggest role model. Jeez, that's a tough one. I'm supposed to be rapid fire with this, but I feel like I got to think on it for a
Okay,
second.
no one's rapid. We can edit it.
Yeah. Biggest role model. You know, it's so cliche and he's got such a big fan base right now, but I just got to give credit because like I don't agree with everything he says, but just like his general curiosity, is willing to like listen, hold conversations, and his podcast has like had a big impact on me. So I'll go with Rogan, man.
I knew you were gonna say that once you started saying that. And this whole time I've been thinking that you sound like Joe Rogan. You've very
Oh shit.
like a very similar voice, I think. Yeah, I was like,
I've done a couple voiceovers with videos where I've gotten that. So I'm not super surprised.
I'm not the only one. But that's great. And I like that you say that because I mean I listen to Rogan too, which I think people think it's even more shocking for a woman to listen to Rogan, but he doesn't discriminate on guests. Like he introduces opinions that are not his own, which not many podcasts or platforms in general can say. So
Yeah.
amazing.
And like I said, like there's so many things that I do not even agree with him on, but like just like he's just a curious dude, and he's like he'll give people a chance to speak their case, and he's like he tries to like hold his own bias aside and just open ears, and it's just it's a beautiful way to live. It's how everybody should be. And I just saw I was actually looking at one of your videos yesterday. I think what was it, the Rogan voice? I like him sturdy. I love that. I love that
I like my
video. That
girls
was awesome.
sturdy. I want them to be able
Yeah.
to move a couch. Yes.
Yeah, but my wife doesn't like when I say that. I'm just thinking, me too, man. Me too.
Also, yeah, and obviously, like he's such a big proponent of martial arts and jujitsu. Maybe you'll be on Rogan one day.
Hey, Broken, what's up, man? The steak
Yeah.
and the egg. Get him
Oh
while
yeah.
it's hot.
You know he's listening to my podcast. We'll send this over and let him know. Great one. Okay, best advice you've ever received.
Oh, best advice you ever received. You got the world by the balls, Rye. Don't fuck it up.
Dad? Words from dad? Words from who?
Yeah, words from dad. Words from dad.
A wise man once
Yep.
said, "You've got the world by the ball." Oh, such a good one. Best book or resource you'd recommend to people because maybe it's a page or something for you.
The best book or resource?
Yeah, like anything you recommend, whether it's Food, lifestyle?
I'll be honest, if I would recommend anybody to read one book, it's The Real Anthony Fauci, because that gives you a really good perspective into the pharmaceutical companies that have taken over, our government and like every aspect of our life, and it gives you a good look into the bureaucrats that are involved in this whole system we've built here. And it just people will have negative reviews on the book that never wrote it just because that's what a talking head on TV told them to say. But when it comes down to it, there's nothing but facts in that book. And if they were not correct, Mr. Kennedy would have been sued a long time ago.
Oh, okay. I've not read this. I will add it to my list.
At it, it's kind of it's a little sad.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm like, that's gonna
but
open up more floodgates for me. That's okay.
yeah, it's a tough one, but I think it's something that
Yeah.
everybody should be aware of.
Yeah. Knowledge is power. Personal mantra or words you live by.
Oh, become harder to kill. So I was actually just in a little heated debate with somebody the other day, yesterday, about this mantra, because it sounds like brash and it sounds like hard, and it's like, what, you would tell your daughter that, like, but yeah, yeah, there's a lot more to it. It's like, yes, it's a very brash thing to say, but it's like in every aspect of your life, like getting proper sleep, doing proper nutrition, being like in having like hobbies, like not being like glued to a screen, like all these things like make you stronger, make you better, make you harder to kill. Like, you know what I mean? Having knowledge, like learning to read and write, like learning to, doing sports, like spending time with your family, like all that stuff, like when you think about it, just like makes you harder to
Yeah.
kill.
I mean, I think that's it is a lifestyle. It is your lifestyle. That's such a great mantra for your lifestyle. And martial arts jujitsu will be a great addition to you becoming harder to kill.
Oh, definitely will. It definitely will. And the yoga's got me nice and loose, so I think I'm gonna be a natural on the mat, but we'll see.
I cannot. I'm gonna be just glued to your page waiting for the first day you do jujitsu. I can't wait to hear about it. And most importantly, last but not least, for everyone who wants to follow along, learn more about you, keep up with the expansion and everything you've got going on, where do they find you?
So right now, all social media like Twitter, Instagram. I even got a TikTok. Cooking underscore it underscore keto. I got the steak and the egg page up and started as well, but the cooking at keto is like my main account right now, and that's where a majority of my interactions are.
Amazing. And we'll link everything on my website. And when you publish your book and open your next restaurant and everything, we'll have you back.
Can't wait.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I can't wait to deep dive that book. And we'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Ryan.